The Aggies are coming off their biggest win at Kyle Field since we beat number 1 Oklahoma in 2002 with the win over Alabama 41-38. The Aggies are on the hunt to replicate what they put together Saturday if they aim to make the most of this season. This time the Aggies got to go to Columbia, Missouri, though, a place where A&M has not won since 1999. The Aggies won that showdown 51-14 with Randy McCown under the center, Jamar Toombs taking handoffs, and Shane Leckler kicking extra points. Who knew? All right, so let's take a look at the team. Let's take a look at their stats, what they've done. Let's check out the matchups and look at some of the film and get an idea for what we're going to be up against this Saturday. All right, let's take a look at the head coach first, Elijah Drinkwitz. He started coaching at Springdale High School in Arkansas with none other than Gus Malzahn. From there, he moved to quality control for Auburn University, and after having success there, he followed Malzahn to Arkansas State as the running backs and co-offensive coordinator. Gus left to take the Auburn job, and Brian Harsin, the current Auburn coach, took over. Harsin then became the head coach of Boise, and Drinkwitz followed. After 2 years, Drinkwitz was promoted to offensive coordinator. The following year, he was named offensive coordinator for NC State, and then after 3 years with them, finishing in the top 25 his last year, Drinkwitz took over at Appalachian State, getting his first head coaching assignment. He went 12-1 that year and promptly took an offer from Missouri to replace Barry Odom and take on the challenge of replicating his success in the SEC. 2020 was his first year and compiled a record of 5-5. Currently, he is 3-3 with wins over Central Michigan, Southeastern Missouri, and most recently UNT. Their 3 losses came at the hands of Kentucky, Tennessee, and Boston College. All right, let's take a look at a few of the players and some of their stats. First off, you definitely have to know Tyler Batty. Currently, he's got 892 all-purpose yards, which ranks 9th. He's got 675 total rushing yards, ranking 8th. 6.49 yard per carry, good enough for 15th in the nation, and 112.5 yards per game with a standing of 11th in the nation. So this guy can really tear it up, and you're going to see that on the film when we take a look at that here in a second. Somebody you have to know is this guy, and he'll be somebody you want to key in on. Mizzou overall, their total D is 129th, with giving up 497 yards per game. The rush D is giving up nearly 287 yards, good enough for 130th. That's dead last in the FBS. Pass yards allowed is 45th, 209 per game. This is good enough for 8.21 yards per attempt and 14 yards per completion. I'm going to let you kind of take these and compare them with kind of how A&M's doing, and so you can get a pretty good feel for how you know A&M's done versus what we just showed you there. Total D for A&M is 353 yards per game given up. And that's to their 497. Total O, we're only doing 376. They are putting up 467 yards per game, whereas they're giving up 287 yards per game on the ground. We're only doing 144. About the same for passing allowed. They got 210, we got 209. Really want you to take a look at this next one, though. Dug a little deeper on this one, trying to find out some of the matchups, some of the areas we may have advantage. Red zone, they're giving up 90% when opponents get in. So 26 times opponents have been inside the red zone, 24 times they've converted. We're doing 68%, 19 attempts, 13 converted. So we're keeping opponents by virtue of a lot of different things, but they're not even getting in our red zone as often. But when they do, they're only have only converted 13 times, good enough for 68%. In other areas, total D, A&M's doing just over 5 yards per play, was they're allowing 6.82 yards. They are getting 6.5 yards per play on offense. To our 5, just under 6 there, 5.89. But their rush D is 6.7 yards per play given up to our 4. And then this passing attempt is pretty stark difference here with 6.15 yards per attempt allowed by A&M to their 8.21. And they're giving up a massive 14 yards per completion to our 10.5 yards. So a lot of things to consider, particularly pointing out that red zone D, as well as their total D and D overall. They're really struggling right now. Steve Wilkes is their defensive coordinator. He has been under the gun here, and there has been some turmoil over the results that he's getting. They're kind of wondering whether or not they're going to be moving on from him, but he's taking responsibility for their woes, and he is trying to stabilize the program currently. That remains to be seen, and this looks like it's an area that we can likely exploit. All right, so let's take a look at some film here. One of the things you're going to notice as you watch these plays is Missouri tends to run fairly exclusively man defense. They tend to put 4 or 5 down in rushing, and they key in and know their assignments and where they're supposed to be. On offense, they're typically running very similar to us with 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end. So they're going to just kind of go at you, and they're going to try and manhandle you. They're going to try and make their blocks and open up avenues for Batty to get through. This is going to be a big part of their game. They don't tend to run a whole lot, but they're quite effective when they do. They like to pass fairly often, but the run game is essential for them, and they do tend to get a lot of big chunk plays when they're having their success there. So again, you'll see right here, they're playing up, they're playing nose to nose here. They're crowding the line of scrimmage. They're pretty much willing to take away one part of your game and kind of gamble on the other side a little bit. UNT's not quite a team that can really take advantage of something like that when it's been taken away from them. Back on offense here, again, you'll see them running that same situation, 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end, almost the exact same play as we saw before. They're running to the left side. They're just going to execute, make their blocks, let Batty do the rest. And as you can see, this guy is pretty explosive, and he's a hard runner. He doesn't have a whole bunch of top end speed, but he is very quick. All right, right here you're going to see a pretty good execution by UNT. They know their assignment. This is something we've been talking about with A&M, so knowing where to go, who to cover, and when to be there. They just let this one slide just a little bit. He's able to fit that one in for the touchdown. Overall, good effort by UNT. It's something we're going to have to replicate what they did there, except for the last part. All right, this next play is a great example of what they can do when the quarterback's given the time. We know this better than anybody at this point. When our quarterback's been allowed time, he can be dangerous. Same goes for them. This is kind of a man coverage scheme. Receivers able to get some separation, deliver the football, and got a touchdown. That's kind of the key to the game. That's what we've been working on too, right? And they're capable of doing the same thing. All right, the scheme they play kind of reminds me of Arkansas a bit. You'll see they're not 3 down linemen, but Arkansas tend to have that one up. They know where to go. They're quick to jump on it too, like Arkansas was. Arkansas tend to know what the play was going to be. It seemed like before it was run, whether it was going to be a run play or a pass play, and got on very quickly. Okay, this is going to be another example of just how dangerous Batty can be. You will see UNT, though, they really kind of struggle to make contact and react so that they can meet them at the line of scrimmage, and that's not a good recipe for success. Missouri is a quality team. They are in their second year of the new head coach, but if you give them what they want, they'll take advantage of it, and Batty's quality enough that he will take it to the house. All right, you're going to see right here again, they are playing man covers. They've got 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. I expect that they're going to crowd that on us too, really try and take away the run game. Linebacker does a good job reacting. It may have just been a tad bit slow, or he was coming from the center, so he didn't have that outside leverage. probably resulting in him getting there a little bit late and giving up those few extra yards. But overall, good job of reading. Here UNT finds some success passing the ball. It reminds me of kind of that play that we had early on, I believe, to Demas, where he just sat down in the zone and he found the pocket, and this guy delivers for UNT. And because they play so much man and cover quite well, finding those zones and those areas are going to be crucial for us, because they're probably going to try and crowd the box and really take away the run and force us to throw. So whether we get the 50-50 ball or we find the areas that we can take advantage of, it's going to be crucial. Watch them do it again right here. Again, they know their coverage, they know where they're supposed to be, and because they do that, they're able to get a sack, which is this is a coverage sack for them. So they're doing a good job in the secondary. All right, of course they're playing for it here. I mean, it's 4th and 2. Everybody on the defense reacts this almost before the ball gets to the quarterback, and they're crowding the line of scrimmage looking for a loss on the play. And they do a good job. Great reaction time. That's going to be key for them, I think, to combat our game. All right, so this play right here is a great play, and it makes me a fan of Batty. Watch how he runs. I mean, I'd love to have a guy like this on my team. I mean, there's no quitting this guy. So first hit, second hit, another guy comes in, third hit. I mean, I guess we're looking at 3 missed tackles at this point, but he does not quit. Another arm tackle right there, and then he just continues to scamper on. Great effort by this guy. All right, something that helped us out in our game against Alabama were turnovers. Turnovers can swing a game big time. And right now, Missouri is somewhere in the top 15, I believe, in turnover margin. If they get turnovers like this on us, we could definitely be challenged, even though we probably expected to win at this point. Turnovers can change this game. Here they're back on offense. A brand new guy up. Same offensive line. They're still making holes. And so not really much of a fall off here when it comes to their next running back. Again, he ain't got as much top speed as a Chain or anything of that nature, but again, the guy's running hard, plays hard, and he's a quality dude. So on paper, it's pretty well clear that we have the upper hand. I think we've already come into this game as a 9-point favorite, or at least it's worked its way up there. I think, for things like that to take place, like our game against Bama, for the dog to win the game, you need a few things to happen, perhaps, like turnovers. We talked about that one. That was a big deal for our game. 2 turnovers early, getting points off of those turnovers made a big difference. That can make a big difference in this game. So if we're gonna, get upset, turnovers could play a margin, be a factor, and Missouri's turnover margin is such that they could exploit that. If it's not that, typically it's matchups. So the question is where are the matchups? They have a very quality running back. We have had some struggles in our run defense. So we gave up about 153, I believe, to Alabama, so not the worst, maybe not the best. The issue then becomes whether or not their run D can hold up against our rush. And we didn't have a whole lot of yards on the ground against Alabama, but that's also part of our strength, I think. We had quite a bit of success throwing the ball. The line came together, and that opened up a lot of things. This is going to be an interesting matchup to see what our wide receivers can do, if they can get separation on these cornerbacks when they play a similar style in their urgency and focus in the secondary as Arkansas did. So if we can get some separation, if we can exploit some of those matchups, we should really be able to open up the run game. Other factor in this is, they are playing UNT, whereas that's a good, it's a quality team. I'm not trying to bash them or anything, but there's a difference in UNT, their offensive line and our offensive line. So I'm not expecting them to be able to hold. I mean, they have some problems on the defensive side of the ball right now. There's not a real good reason to expect those to change. But as we went into the Alabama game, we didn't really have any good reason to expect our play was getting ready to change, and it did. They may have a lot of fire lit under them at the moment with getting so much criticism for their D. So I kind of expect that they're going to be selling out on the run to stop that, since it's been such a sore spot. And then playing one-on-one pretty much the majority of the games you saw against UNT to try and stymie us in our pass game. So I don't see that happening right now. It's hard for me to think that it will happen with our offensive line playing as well as they have been. I think one way or another we're going to have success. Bigger question ends up being, can we cover the spread? Whereas if we're going to have the win, which is not guaranteed, the next question is just whether or not we can cover the 9 points. And so I'm trying to think about where I would put this score. Curious as to know where y'all would have this score. Coming off such a big win as we just had, teams can tend to have a letdown. I am very interested in this game because I want to know whether or not that's going to be the case. I highly doubt it's going to be the case. That's a lot of momentum to work off of, and great teaching experience for Jimbo to catapult ourselves from. I don't think we're going to have a fall off. I think we're going to have more of a honing our skill this week. So I think things are going to mesh even better than they had been. And I think things are, the team's going to really show that this is their identity now. Of course, that's best case scenario. There's always something they could throw a wrench in it. If we get somebody suspended or if somebody gets hurt between now and then, and if that offensive line gets mixed up, once again, we could end up back in a similar situation. So I am going to go for my score prediction right now. I think I will go with 42 for the Aggies and 20 for Missouri. I do think we're going to cover quite a bit. And the sky's the limit on this. Again, part of the matchup issue is they're going to see what we've been doing on one side of the ball in the secondary. They may decide that they can have some success throwing the ball. And so I do think that they're going to be able to get some first downs, move the ball because of that. And we've been traditionally giving up quite a bit of third down because of that situation. But in the end, we've been able to hold, as you saw against Alabama. We should be able to hold against Missouri when it comes down to it. Our red zone rate is much higher than theirs, and when we get down to theirs, it's almost a certainty of a score. So factor their D in with that. I think it's going to be fairly high scoring for A&M. On their side, it's just going to depend on exactly what D makes it to the game. When all the parts start clicking, when we have Clemens and Tyree clashing down, Leal coming up the middle with either Rakes or McKinley Jackson, with our linebackers filling holes, and then with the backside being covered by O'Neal, Jalen Jones, Chappell, and Damani. If we get that back end short up, this could be a real low-scoring affair for them. That's kind of what this defense is waiting on a little bit, is for that part, that backside part, to lock down. When they lock down, we are really going to be on something, considering this offense is starting to find themselves. So I'm going to stick with that. 45-20, Aggs win. Real interested, though. I'm going to be tuned in the whole time. Can't wait to see how we're going to perform the second week out. Hopefully, we're going to be making this a habit. We're going to be learning that we are that potential and not that we just have the potential. Big game to catapult to the rest of the season. Again, a win here will keep 10-2 on the table, and that's big. That's big for our season. Hopefully, these guys will come and assert their dominance and show exactly what they are. It's a great opportunity to go over and get this win at Missouri, one we haven't had for a long, long time. So let's see what we can do on Saturday. I'm looking for a great outcome. Think the Aggies are going to pull it out in fine fashion. Until then, we'll see you next time. Gig 'em.